Hi, Gerhard Bloom here, once again looking at the tyranny and the delusions of the social justice movement. So let's look at some recent initiatives by the Biden administration and the Democratic Party that's been completely co-opted by leftist ideology. We can look at the Inflation Reduction Act first, right? Over $500 billion. So this is hundreds of billions of dollars are being funneled into the economy in the midst of inflation. So this Inflation Reduction Act, this is another one of these Orwellian labels that does exactly the opposite of what it purports to do. So flooding billions of dollars into the economy and will raise inflation without question. Even leftists acknowledge that this won't reduce inflation, but they are very hesitant to say it will actually increase inflation. But everybody knows, you flood hundreds of billions of dollars into the economy, inflation will rise. And it's another example of leftists giving tax benefits and charity to the wealthy. Here's an example. If you go out and buy a Tesla for tens of thousands of dollars, you're eligible for a $7,500 tax credit. Do you think it's poor, honest working stiffs that are running out and buying Teslas? No, in case you didn't know, a Tesla is a very expensive vehicle. Very expensive vehicle. It's not poor working stiffs that's running out and buying them. So another tax break for the wealthy. And in the most egregious example imaginable, Joe Biden is forgiving student loans. Well, Joe Biden doesn't have billions of dollars that it will take to pay back these loans, to forgive these loans. No, these loans aren't forgiven. Like the debt just, with a magic wand disappears. Banks and institutions are out there waiting for their money. So who's going to pay? It's going to be the poor working stiff out there who's working hard, earning an honest paycheck. More and more is lost to the Joe Biden inflation, right? The Putin tax hike, right? No. Inflation was rapidly rising before the war in Ukraine, right? The war in Ukraine was a convenient excuse for Biden, who has yet to accept any responsibilities for his catastrophic failures. Check out my video on the disaster that was Afghanistan. Everybody else's fault except Joe Biden's, right? Nonsense. Here's some shocking facts. Okay, you're a college graduate. You earn a degree. And maybe it's one of these, ridiculous feminist theory courses or Black history, which are all ideological nonsense, by the way. I have absolutely no problem studying Black history. In fact, I encourage it. People should understand what happened, the proper historical narrative. 1619 Project, Ibram X. Kendi, Robin DiAngelo nonsense. It's ideological nonsense. It's poisonous. It's demonstrably false, right? I make that case in my book, right? Absolute nonsense. So anyways, getting back to this. So it's going to be the taxpayer who pays off these privileged, pampered kids who are going to colleges, and they're getting $10,000 forgiven. They can make up to $120,000, $125,000. $125,000 seems like a shitload of money to me. They don't need my charity and they don't need your charity. Turns out, when you look at the numbers, right? Who exactly are getting these college degrees, right? Statistics demonstrate this overwhelmingly. The kids who go to university are predominantly kids from middle class and upper middle class families that pursue degrees and graduate degrees, right? If you're a Pell Grant recipient, right? These are from poor families. they're eligible for $20,000. Here's something that you might not know. That even if you have one of these ridiculous make-believe degrees, this credentials you, right? This piece of paper is more and more in demand when you go for a job that absolutely does not require a university degree, but because institutions are pushing this, employers are now demanding degrees for jobs that have absolutely no requirement. So you can have one of these ridiculous degrees and you have a significant head start in the job market. You got a high school diploma, you got a university degree, I'll take a chance on that degree. Why? Just like high school degrees back in the day, they didn't guarantee you were intelligence. What it was supposed to guarantee was minimal competency, right? You could read, write, and do basic math. Although, if you'll read my book, there is no longer any necessary relationship between a high school degree and basic competencies. Why? Because social justice ideologues thought, well, it was just unfair that some people, overwhelmingly from the black community, failed to meet the minimum standards required to earn that degree, to earn that diploma. So they're just giving out these diplomas arbitrarily, right? You show up, you get your diploma. Well, what signal does this send employers? You get a white kid with a high school diploma and you get a black kid with a high school diploma, and you know they will give the black kid a high school diploma who hasn't earned it. This is absolutely terrible because that white kid could be an absolute idiot and this black kid could very well have earned his high school diploma. And at any rate, the same is true of these university degrees. I am absolutely shocked at the level of ignorance of university graduates, and that includes from graduate programs, right? They can't tell you what a woman is, right? Pregnant people, right? No, it's ideological nonsense. To borrow from Dr. Johnson, this stupidity doesn't come naturally. It takes years, right? This takes dedicated effort to become this stupid. Socialism is the answer. 100 million people killed in one century, the 20th century, by socialist utopian dreaming. And these ideologues are still dreaming that dream. Why? Because you mentioned Stalin, Hitler, Mao, Pol Pot, and their eyes glaze over. They don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And they're university graduates, graduate school graduates, right? Unbelievable. So here's some shocking facts here, if you don't believe me. 70% of student loans, are from the top 60% of the income distribution, right? 70% of these loans that Biden is forgiving on your behalf because you're so generous. You're more generous than you realize. So he's just going to dip into your wallet and take out the money to pay back these privileged kids. So 70% of these loans are going to 60% of whom are in the highest income distributions, right? 60% of the highest distributions, right? Absolutely ridiculous. You know what percentage of the American population has a university degree? About 38%. 38%. So most Americans do not have a university degree. So some snotty-nosed kid comes out of university, doesn't know anything other than, the United States is an oppressive tyranny, and you owe this snot-nosed brat a living, so you should forgive his debt, right? You're the honest working stiff, right? 13% of the American public has a graduate degree, right? And 56% of the loans that Biden is going to forgive are for graduate students. So 56% of students who are or graduates from a graduate program are going to have their $10,000 or $20,000 of their loans forgiven. Once again, welfare for the rich. The poor working stiff, he's being sent the bill, right? So, and he doesn't even bother to thank you for your charity, right? Absolutely outrageous. So Donald Trump, the authoritarian? I don't think so. You know that this is illegal, right? The president has absolutely no powers to spend the American public's dollar, right? This is unconstitutional, right? It is the Congress of the United States that has the right over spending, right? This is the people. The people get to decide through Congress. You know who agrees with me? Well, up until yesterday, Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, a rabid leftist Democrat, she said a year ago that, would that we could, but the president just can't do that. He doesn't have the power. And she's right. In a moment of honesty, and this is when the Democratic Party and the leftists there still believe they could win an honest election coming up. But Joe Biden's approval ratings are absolutely in the toilet, so he wants to give his supporters a gift, right? A gift from Uncle Joe, right? For giving thousands of dollars. You know who the strongest supporters of this leftist ideology is? Yes, that's right. College graduates. College graduates just love this leftist ideology, right? They can't get enough of it, right? At any rate, Joe Biden's the leftist. He's obviously a leftist. He is the authoritarian. He decided that he was going to allow millions of undocumented immigrants to flood into the United States. You didn't get to decide that. Poll after poll of the American public says, no, we've had enough of immigrants, illegal and legal. They want the border closed. They want immigration to grind to a halt. And, right-wing racist bigotry. You don't get to fucking decide. The public gets to decide. And there are plenty of blacks and Hispanics who want that border closed. Why? Because disproportionately, they are at the lower end of the income spectrum. So it will be their communities that suffer the most as their jobs are taken away by people who are not American citizens, right? That American citizens have absolutely no debt or obligation to. They have a responsibility for their own poor working public, right? So Joe Biden decides arbitrarily, no, we're just going to let them all in, right? Because we're that kind of country, right? He just had another fence built around another one of his homes, right? Fences don't work, except Joe Biden. Joe Biden wants a fence because he wants to keep you out. But he doesn't care about millions of people flooding into the country, right? Weaponizing the Justice Department to go after parents who are absolutely outraged, and rightfully so, about this toxic sex and gender ideology being taught in the classroom. Yeah, parents were outraged. So the Justice Department weaponizes the FBI and starts looking at these parents as domestic terrorists, right? Domestic terrorists. Ridiculous. He is an authoritarian thug who is trying to intimidate honest Americans. So he's trying to buy off voters, ignoring. He has a duty to enforce American laws, and that means laws against illegal immigration, and he's just abdicating that responsibility. This is authoritarianism. This is him unilaterally deciding to ignore American laws, right? And the debacle in Afghanistan, I've spoken about this. The raid on Trump's home, right? I hear people, well, he had classified documents there. The President of the United States, and when he took those documents, he was President of the United States. He can look at a pile of boxes and say, you see all that stuff there, all that material there that's marked top secret? I declare that those are now unclassified. He doesn't have to have any special oversight. There's no bureaucratic process. His word is the law. He's the president. I worked in a high security environment. Yes, I had a top secret security clearance. I could not leak confidential material, classified material. I had absolutely no authority to declassify material at all because I wasn't the president of the United States. When Hillary Clinton smashed aides at her request, smashed cell phones on her behalf that had classified material and took, what do they call it, data breach, and then smashed it with a hammer as the FBI is investigating her for the mishandling, the illegal mishandling of classified material. James Comey, FBI. Oh, I don't see any evidence of obstruction. Taking a hammer to the cell phone that the police are looking for, that's not evidence of obstructing an investigation. Of course, it's evidence of obstructing an investigation. Right? And she wasn't the president of the United States. She had absolutely no authority to declassify the information that she was handling. At any rate, Donald Trump is an authoritarian. You know what Donald Trump, the authoritarian, did not do during the BLM riots that were tearing cities apart, billions of dollars worth of damage, a couple of dozen people killed? He did not declare the Insurrection Act. You know who would have? I would have. I would have said, insurrection, sending the military, right? Well, he did not do that. Why? Because he did not want to look like an authoritarian. And not a lot of gratitude for him on that front, right? Not a lot of gratitude, no. The lies and distortions around Donald Trump, and this fiction that Joe Biden is somehow some saintly character. His son, Hunter Biden, billions of dollars from China, from Ukraine, from other countries, deeply corrupt officials. And in the case of China, tied directly to the Chinese Communist Party, right? And Joe Biden, he was in on this, and his brother, Bo, right? It's a family of crooks. They're a family of grifters. At any rate, sorry if I ranted. Yes, I'm angry. I'm angry on your behalf. I'm a Canadian citizen here, and I just, for the life of me, can't understand how this zealot for leftist ideology, and he doesn't believe it for a minute. Unlike my deluded prime minister is a leftist to the core, and he's also an authoritarian, right? Joe Biden, he has absolutely no core moral or ethical principles at all. He will go wherever wealth and adulation takes him. At any rate, I do hope you appreciate the video. I thank you for your time. And please, check out my book, Deconstructing Social Justice. It's available on Amazon. It's important, not because I wrote it. I wrote it because the issues could not be more important. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.